Branch commanders, please come forward. Take the orders of the day.
Shoulder, arms.
Shoulder, up.
Order, arms.
Order, up.
In place, rest.
Order,
In place, rest.
in place, rest.
Carry arms.
Order, arms. Okay, as most of you know, we lost Lieutenant Revere here about a month ago. We're going to have about a 10 to 15 minutes of service. A couple things I want to say. After the battle, you're welcome to come into our camp. Have a little bit of a celebration of life for Les. You're welcome to come over. Some of the fellows can come over also. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Major Frank.
Let me just say a few words about Lieutenant Revere. I have 6 or 8 pages of notes here. The Colonel said I could only speak for an hour. To say that Les had a major impact on Company E would be a gross understatement. He joined Company E more than 19 years ago, and he has mentored and helped many encouraging people in the hobby all that time. He was an avid reader of Civil War history long before he joined Hart's Engineers, and he has been a veritable walking encyclopedia of Civil War history. There was almost never a question that was posed that he couldn't answer, no matter how obscure. On our numerous trips back east to major reenactments, we would usually stay after the reenactment and visit as many battlefields as we could. Going with him was like having a tour guide. He would describe the events at every single location in such vivid detail, it was almost like being there. Amazing, amazing command. One of his major accomplishments was to research and write a definitive history of Hart's Engineers. That history is copyrighted. It's currently used by the park rangers at Newmarket. Newmarket was a major battlefield for Hart's Engineers as a primary reference. For years, Les and I shared a tent, which affectionately was known as the Civil War Hilton. Les had virtually every accoutrement to make himself comfortable, including a cot, a sleeping hat, everything. It was amazing. If he didn't have it, it probably didn't exist. To say that he snored loudly, well, that's probably an understatement too. The way it would work, he'd start very quietly, you could barely hear him, and it would get louder and louder and louder until it was so loud it barely shook the walls of the tent. Sometimes he snored so loudly he even woke himself up. Then it would stop, and I would think, oh, blessed silence. Finally, I'm going to get some sleep. 10 seconds later, the whole thing would start again. All night long, the same thing, over and over. At one Eastern event, you know, he was a guy with a lot of savoir-faire. At one Eastern event, it started to rain, and when we realized it wasn't going to stop, we all started looking, we were campaign style, we all started looking for tents in which we could take shelter. And while other people were walking around politely asking if they might have some shelter in their tent, Les just walked up to the nearest tent, threw open the fly, and said, "Move over, I'm coming in." When it was cold, Les wore a greatcoat. And at one, I believe it was at Riley's farm, he also was wearing one of those skull caps. And somebody saw him from a distance and yelled out, "It's the Pope!" Well, that name stuck, and forever after, he has been known as the Pope. Now, a lot of people who knew Les would be amazed to know that he had a problem with high blood pressure. He took diuretics, and when it was time, it was time. It didn't really matter where he was. We were at Gettysburg at a huge reenactment in the middle of the battlefield, and it was time. So being the guy that he is, not that he cared at all who saw him, he really didn't. But he did have some concern for the sensitivities of the audience. So he simply commanded the men to gather around him. And that began a whole nother command, a new command, called Rally Round the Pope. He was Les was what you call a man of action. He didn't really want to talk about things. He wanted to get it done and then simply move on. Some people found his demeanor a little bit brusque, but he liked to tell it like it was. He was forthright, his language was nothing but colorful, and sometimes people were a little bit surprised by his delivery. But when coupled with his quick wit, his sense of humor, invariably he had them laughing in a few minutes. He was a man who loved to work with his hands. He was an accomplished woodworker. If it was made of wood, he could make it. He made high-end furniture. If you look in our camp, you'll see the field desk that Colonel Tuttle uses is one of the things that he made. He did cabinet making. He did home remodeling. You name it, he could do it. Les and I were friends for well over 30 years, and having him as a friend was a wonderful thing. He was generous, he was supportive to a fault, he had a magnetic personality. People naturally just gravitated to him. He took new folks under his wing, and he taught them not what they were supposed to know, he taught them what they needed to know. He was also the guy who would tap you on the shoulder and whisper something in your ear to keep you from making a really stupid mistake. He did that for everyone. He was loyal, he always had your back. He accomplished a lot in his life, and he impacted a lot of people along the way. He commented often that he had achieved more in his life than he ever thought that he would. Life is good, is what Les used to say. And for him, life was good. Just a week before his passing, he and I sat talking, and he signed the sinner's prayer in the back of the Gideon Testament, signifying that he knew he was a sinner and he gave his life to Christ. It's reassuring to know that when we pass from this life, we'll meet again. And that was life.
Attention, division. Shoulder. Arms. Present. Arms. Rest on. Arms.
Who is this man we hold so dear? Who's like no other, far or near? Not just in uniform, 'tis no doubt, in many circles he's got clout. I met him many moons ago, but that only goes to show time passes quickly when you're with a friend. Foolish, I thought it'd never end. We tramped battlefields and sacred grounds, foraged together and made the rounds. Ever loyal to the cause and our men, he'd lend a hand and ask again, got enough water, caps, and plenty of ammo? Let's burn some powder and chow at Johnny Reb's. Oh, how we'll miss that twinkle in his eye, that knowing grin, often quite wry. He knows a lot, and he is no dummy. I teased him, though, about his prosperous tummy. He likes his pickles, for sure as no other, and eats them any time. But brother, oh brother, now his absence will be ever conspicuous. Not being missed? Well, that's just ridiculous. Reckon we'll see him again someday. As for myself, I'll be right proud to say, howdy, Les, my pard, how is it you been? Johnny Appleseeds is calling, know what I mean? You've crossed over that river to the shade of the trees. When we meet again, we'll make more memories like these.
Shoulder. Arms. Order. Arms. place. Rest.
Branch commanders, take command of your units. Parade is dismissed.
Sergeant Major, what time is it?
I don't know, sir. 7 minutes to go up.
All right, company commander, stack arms, rest in the area. Water up.
Everyone's a little